This is one of the biggest mistakes people make about Jesus. They think he was just a wise man, a peaceful teacher, a spiritual leader. But then you actually read the Gospel of John, and the picture becomes completely different. Because John does not present Jesus as just a good person. He presents him as God. Now here's the problem. Most beginners never start with John. They start with random clips online, random opinions, random debates. But the more voices they hear, the more confused they become. So in this video, we are stripping everything back. No complicated theology, no attacking people, just the gospel itself. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why John is one of the most important places for a beginner to start. Most people expect Jesus to speak like a motivational speaker. Loving, safe, non-offensive. But when you read John carefully, Jesus constantly makes claims that force people into a decision. That changes everything. Because a normal teacher does not say things like this. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John 1:1. That's how John begins his gospel, not with Jesus as merely human, but with Jesus existing from the beginning. Then John says something even more shocking. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. John 1:14. God entering the world. Not distant, not abstract, present. That was crucial. But if you miss this first chapter, the rest of John becomes harder to understand, because everything Jesus says afterward flows from this identity. Now, most people say, Jesus was just a good teacher. It sounds respectful, but it actually ignores his own words, because Jesus says things ordinary teachers never say. Before Abraham was born, I am. John 8:58. Notice he did not say, before Abraham was, I was. He says, I am. That statement shocked people listening to him because it connected directly to God's divine name revealed in the Old Testament. Therefore, the issue is no longer, was Jesus wise? The issue becomes, who did Jesus believe he was? Then Jesus says this, I and the Father are one. John 10:30. Again, not the words of someone claiming to be only human. And this matters for beginners because many people today create a softer version of Jesus. Comfortable, non-confrontational, easy to accept, but the Jesus in John constantly confronts people with truth. Now here's another common belief. All religions basically lead to God. A lot of people believe this because it sounds peaceful, but Jesus does not speak this way. He says, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. John 14:6. That is direct, exclusive, and clear. Now some people hear that and immediately think, that sounds arrogant. But if Jesus truly is who John says he is, then this statement changes meaning completely. Because if God entered the world, then God has authority to tell humanity the way back to him. That changes the conversation. And this is why beginners should read John personally instead of only listening to opinions about Jesus. Read him directly. Watch how he speaks, what he claims, and how people react to him. Because even his enemies understood he was making divine claims. Now here's where modern culture gets even more confused. People say Jesus accepts everyone exactly as they are. It is partly true. Jesus absolutely welcomes broken people, but he never tells people to remain unchanged. Ever. That's the difference. In John 8:11, Jesus tells a woman caught in sin, go now and leave your life of sin. Notice the balance. There was no hatred and no cruelty in saying this, but also there was no approval of sin. It was Jesus' grace and truth together in action. Then in John 3:3, Jesus says, no one can see the kingdom of God unless they are born again. That is transformation language. It is not behavior polishing or pretending to be perfect. Transformation. And beginners need to understand this early because Christianity is not simply be a nicer person. It is about becoming spiritually alive through Jesus. That was important. But if Christianity becomes only motivation or positivity, the core message disappears. Now let's bring this together. The world today is filled with confusion about Jesus. Some deny his divinity, some reduce him to inspiration, and some reshape him to fit modern culture. But the Gospel of John keeps pulling us back to one central truth. Jesus is not merely a teacher. John presents him as God in flesh, eternal, one with the Father, fully revealing God, worthy of worship, holding divine authority, and one moment captures this perfectly. After seeing the risen Jesus, Thomas says, my Lord and my God. John 20:28. Notice something powerful. Jesus does not correct him, because John's gospel has been building toward this revelation the entire time. And for beginners, this matters deeply, because your foundation determines everything that comes after. If your understanding of Jesus is weak, distorted, or built only on culture, confusion grows fast. But when you start with John, you begin at the source. So here's the challenge. If you are new to Christianity, stop jumping randomly through opinions online. Start with John, 1 chapter a day. Slowly ask, what is this teaching me about Jesus? Not, what do people say about Jesus? Read the gospel itself, because the closer the world moves toward confusion, the more important it becomes to know Christ truthfully. Not emotionally, not culturally, biblically. And if John is correct, then Jesus is far more than a teacher. He is Lord. If this helped you understand the Gospel of John more clearly, please like, and since we keep learning in this channel, hit subscribe and start reading John 1 today. God bless and be safe.